this is our new publication. Of course, you know Geert, Tommaso and I work as researchers at INC, and next to me is Alessandro, who is the author of our first network notion publication, and that is what we're gonna discuss for the next few minutes. So before we dive into the contents of this, I wanted to ask Geert, we already have a lot of publication series at INC. Maybe we can go over them super quickly, and then you can tell us why the need to start a new one. What is the added value of this specific series that we're starting?
Yeah, the name Halbe Zijlstra already was mentioned, and he is really the evil genius that cut half of the budget for Dutch culture back in 2011, and this on the longer term, especially in the years 12, 13, 14, started to also have a really big impact on the way we ran the lectoraat INC as a cultural organization. This was, after Halbe Zijlstra, no longer possible. We developed a lot of cultural series, but the forerunner of the network notion, maybe some of you will remember, it was called the network notebooks. And this is kind of, again, the follow-up of it. It was extremely successful. These are mid-size publications, 20,000 words. So it's not a book, it's not a chapter, it's not an article. It's what is maybe 2.5 articles or something like that. It's what in the past, in the social movement, especially also in the labor movement, Marx was very good at it as the producer of the brochure. So the brochure is approximately 20,000 words, and there are many, many very famous brochures. So we produced quite a few of them, but we produced them in retrospect maybe too expensive. They looked very good, and they had a very odd size. And so, but everybody said, yeah, but they should come back. And then we started to think, yes, we need to, there's such a need for this. And what we simply decided is to radically cut costs, really absolutely radically. And yeah, the secret of this is very simple. It has a standardized design. So you design once and you can make 20, 30 of them. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So you have the design. Okay, this is of course cutting costs, in design, which, is in itself, of course, a problem when we discuss the precarity in the arts, okay? But, okay, so we cut the cost with the design, and we cut the cost with the format, because what is this? It's very ordinary A4. It's, yeah, you can, even you can download them, you can copy them on a Xerox copy machine, and yeah, it just costs next to nothing. So if we have a little bit of budget, we can make 500 or 1,000. If we have no budget, we make 20. It doesn't really matter, right? So in that sense, this gives us, again, a lot of freedom. And in fact, number 2 is already ready. And number 3, I'm working on that one as well. So yeah, so and now and that was even before the series was launched. Anyway, we're very, very happy, Alessandro. You're here. You're over from London, where you are based. I will read the title: Semiotics of the End, on Capitalism and the Apocalypse. That's dark, and we start very dark. I think that's totally in the tradition of INC. So yeah, maybe tell us something about, because the central thesis of your brochure is that there is a never-ending end, right? So it's kind of, you think it's dark, but there's always a darker version of the black. That you thought there was only one black, but yeah, there are in fact 50 shades of black. right? And this is the, and you develop that in the brochure in a very eloquent way, because in a way people have a very primitive, maybe almost biblical idea of the apocalypse. Like, okay, you have all the catastrophes, and then that's the end of the world. That's it. Right? Maybe also how we thought of the end of the world, maybe at the height of the Cold War, like all the nuclear bombs go off and that's the end of humankind, or something like that, right? You come up with a whole other thesis.
Thank you, Geert, for the introduction. Well, I think that this theme of the endlessness of capitalist realism, which is the idea that we live in this capitalist system, there is no possibility for imagining a coherent alternative, has a lot to do with the cultural stasis we are in. So we see lots of remixes, remakes of the same shit on and on and on. And we don't see any end to this thing. And these things are reproduced without end. And I think, well, there are many things to be said. One thing is that the whole technological apparatus that reproduces this media is embedded in the reproduction of endless content, which it generates an infinite flux of semio-capital. So I'm talking about immaterial signs that flow from your social media to your TV and produce simply further circulation capital. And we see these continuous reproduction on and on and on. So this has been going on for a while, but the fact that we see these over-reproduction of the end also means, I think, optimistically, and I try to basically deconstruct the technology behind this thing and see that if there is always reproduction of the end, there is always a potential for a new beginning. There is always a potential for breaking the screen, going through the screen, seeing different things happening on the screen. And this, in the book, I try to expand on this a bit, still cryptic concept that is still a bit cryptic to me, but is the idea that even when we reduce the content that we see of, basically what we see on capitalist TV is the reproduction of the same on, and one shit is equal to the other. But it's when we are confronted to the sameness of all these contents and we reduce them to basically an equivalence of zeros, basically to the same thing on and on, that we can start to think, okay, so the media are reproducing this thing in this way and they function in a certain way. What can we do? And I think there is potential for looking at how the media work and try to rethink how they work and what's our position as subjects into the reproduction of the end. Because we still have some potential in terms of imagining alternative endings and trying to say that the fact that it's easier to imagine the end of capitalism than the end of the world is not true, and that we can still imagine different things, especially given the nihilism of the things that we see. The fact that all this content that we see is basically nothing. So it's like a blank canvas on which we can draw anything. It's just like a potential. So this endlessness is just a potential for a new beginning.
Thank you. What would you imagine, if you can imagine something? You were talking about not having to be an end, but it can be a beginning. Could you speculate to what concretely a beginning like that could look like?
Yeah, so I think that there actually already exists some counter-culture that is actually running in our mainstream culture. So, for example, this was the beginning of this book, and it's paradoxically the last chapter. And it's about the music of some artists like Sophie, Arca, some crazy Chinese underground techno musicians like 33 MBW and a few others, that basically demonstrate that it's not true that we have lost the ability to imagine alternatives, and it's exactly through this very powerful media that we have now that are able to reproduce content on and on and on, that we can, with just the introduction of a little novelty, change completely how we perceive the cultural landscape. So I look very optimistically at some recent cultural events like Sophie Arca and these other artists that I said. But there are others. There are many, and probably there are many that I don't know. And I think part of the project would be to find and keep on finding, also like retrospectively, some artists that disprove the capitalist realist dictum.
Now, the book opens with this very strong motive, not with a bang, but with a yawn, right? So you are emphasizing not, let's say, the Bordian society of the spectacle, where the end is kind of a spectacle, but you're emphasizing the boredom in the everyday that is caused by this never-ending serialized form of the catastrophe, right? And this is kind of a serialized form of disasters that is going over us, is coming over us. What does that mean? Why did you choose that yawn? Or why? People don't think, when they think of a catastrophe, they don't think about boredom, right? They seem to be the opposite.
And it's a beautiful T.S. Eliot reference, just want to point it out.
Yeah, it's the reference that you made to Debord is perfectly correct, and it's what Debord called a détournement. So the original quote is from, as Chloë said, it's a quote from T.S. Eliot, who said that the world ends not with a bang but with a whimper. And I think now we're in a very different situation. And I wrote this piece in 2021, so it was 1 year into the pandemic. And I think there was a Guardian article that said that had a title like, "Is this the most boring apocalypse ever?" And I thought, oh, that's a very, very cool idea. And basically, I started looking at commercial mainstream cinema, like really like. So basically, in the past, end of the world movies were like crazy things building on the fear of people, the atomic bomb, and now we have Godzilla versus Kong and Sharknado, which are obviously like they are the symptom of a society that is bored about this theme of the end of the world, because the apocalypse is finished, as Baudrillard says. The apocalypse is something that is from the Cold War, like the war should have ended 40 years ago, and it's not. And this is my redefinition of capitalist realism. That is something in the past. So I think in boredom and in this symptom that we have, this reaction, there is within it, and in this very bleak depiction that I give, already the potential for change, and it's all within the fact that boredom is a lower peak reaction to an event. So the end of the world is over. At the beginning we had fear, and now it's dissipating, and we had just a reaction to like that produces kind of a nihilism towards it. But as Nietzsche says, like nihilism is just the phase before the overcoming. So I think we're exactly at this point. And I think, well, like then I connect all these things with how we see the media. But the point is that we can always find by looking into the abyss. This is what Geert says in Extinction Internet, but we should look into the abyss, and then we'll be able to find a solution, but we have to face it. And that's it. There is no point in saying, oh, capitalism. There are some things there are some things that need to be faced, and trying to find within how the ideology works some potential within it. And this is what I try to do.
I think we're almost out of time, but I think this is a lovely way to end. Let's just face the abyss together.
The publication is free. There are copies outside, so take as many as you like, and spread them, distribute them. So we're very happy to finally meet you in person here.
Yes.
In Amsterdam. So let's look forward to the next ones, and thanks so much for the collaboration and for your patience, because it took a little bit of time, as you can imagine. The first one is the most difficult one. After that, as it goes with the INC series, the production is so much more easy. So thanks a lot also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.